Megan, thank you so much for being part of the Thriving Author Summit. I'm just so delighted to get to talk with you today.
Happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, let me just read your bio to introduce you to the audience, and then we'll dive right in. I'm so excited about this topic. So,
Awesome.
Megan Kuhar is a trauma informed certified life and success coach and clinical hypnotherapist, professor at Baldwin Wallace University Conservatory of Music, and a marketing and technology specialist. Over her career, she noticed the common frustrations that creatives face when it comes to building their business. Her aim is to help creatives get at the root cause of their entrepreneurial struggles through subconscious healing and thought provoking coaching questions, while also providing tips that are helpful and easy to apply. And I was
Mhm.
telling Megan before we hit record, I'm a fan of Megan's. I subscribe to Megan's newsletter. I love your social posts. I just feel like you have such wonderful content that you put out that I don't really see anywhere else. So I just want to give a little plug. I know you'll share at
Thank
the
you.
end ways for people to find you and follow you, but just really excited to dive into this topic with you today.
Me too. Let's do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So let's get into this idea of accessing your subconscious wisdom. Do you want to maybe start off by talking about kind of like this, just the subconscious mind in general, and like why this is something that we should learn about and how it can kind of help us in the creative process?
Sure. Yeah. So if you have ever heard this before, somewhere between 95 or 90% of your brain's activity is subconscious. So you're really only using like a small percentage of your brain consciously every day. And so there's this whole untapped potential that a lot of people are not really diving into too much. So when we really work on our subconscious mind and we focus on root cause of any sort of like struggle or ongoing pattern that we're experiencing, then we are able to actually more like sustainably heal and grow and evolve in our business and in our creative work. So that's why when I started off being a coach, I was really focused on, okay, I know that like creatives really hate promotion. So I'm just going to teach them more about it. We're going to like learn so much and all the facts are going to help them love it more and all the techniques are going to help them love it more. But that didn't really work. So what I was able to do then was kind of realize that you can't get better at something without first like feeling better about it. So if
Mm,
you really focus on the inner stuff first and your mindset and where your struggles are coming from, then you can more sustainably grow and be better and enjoy the thing that you really hate doing. So that's when I went and got my certification in life and success coaching and hypnotherapy, because now I'm more equipped to help people from the roots up, and it's a more sustainable way of coaching.
yes, I love that. I want to highlight again what you said. I love how you said you can't get better at something until you feel better at that thing. That is so true. And I think so many of us just try to kind of push through doing things that we have all of these maybe subconscious aversions towards for whatever reason.
Mhm.
And that it's like trying to push a boulder uphill, or, it just doesn't work as well
Yeah.
as, like you're saying, if you can get to these root causes. So I'd love to especially hit on imposter syndrome, which is something that I work with a lot of my clients on, and also just the idea about kind of stress and overwhelm. Did you want to talk a little bit about how, accessing your subconscious wisdom can in particular help people with those issues that I just think we all struggle with those.
Yeah. So imposter syndrome is incredibly common. And in fact, I've heard it called imposter experience before, because
Mm,
it's not really like a unique syndrome. Like everyone has it. So it's something that everybody experiences. But the thing that I've learned over the years of teaching and coaching is that in order to develop grit for something, which basically means that you persevere, you continue no matter what the results are, you just keep pushing towards your goals. You really need to be able to have like a purpose and be centered around something other than you. So if
mm,
you can connect to a bigger picture, if you can connect to a purpose, then things like imposter syndrome don't come up as frequently, because you're able to kind of like get past the hurdles and realize that those were just part of the process. so with subconscious work, what we can do is we can really dive into that purpose. And especially for creatives, a lot of us have been doing this for so long. Like for me, I started playing music when I was in second grade. And my motivations back then were not the same as they are now. And so if you don't stop to like think about your purpose and your motivation and your mission frequently, really frequently, then
Mhm.
burnout happens and imposter syndrome happens. And you just keep kind of like pushing the boulder up the hill without really realizing why. And so there's these
Yeah.
moments where you're like, why am I doing this? I can't do this anymore, you know? And then things like your reel doesn't perform on Instagram and you have only like 200 views rather than the typical 500, it's going to really damage your mindset because you're not prepared to, you know, be sort of like sustainably going towards that goal and like realizing that imposter syndrome is part of it. So yeah, so I think like really diving into um like I've been saying, the root cause and the roots of these things is what will help you to be able to get past when imposter syndrome happens, because it does happen. So
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. And I'm going to start calling it imposter experience now too. That I love that term
Yeah.
so much more because it is something that we all experience. And I think I used to believe that once I reached a certain level like of success that then I wouldn't experience syndrome anymore.
Mhm.
But I feel like at each level it kind of comes up in new ways.
Yeah.
And so I do think it's so important to figure out the tools that we can use as creatives to deal with it when it comes up, because it's not something that's going away.
Right.
And I also love so much of what you're talking about. I think as creatives, and it is important to look outward, like we're going to talk about promotion a little bit, but I think we often put so much on external around us, but what you're talking about is really like going inward. And I think when we're able to put more power in like that inward work, and like you're saying, our greater purpose, like our why for doing this, I just think it naturally is so much more sustainable over like the ups and downs that are just inherent in the creative life.
Yeah, totally. And, you know, promoting in particular feels really vulnerable. And so, like, you know, it will bring up all sorts of things that you haven't thought about in a long time. Like, I could share stories about how, like, I went through hypnotherapy and how, like, it brought back memories of like being bullied and like how social media felt like kind of like a reflection of that. And so, you know, it's not easy to like continue to talk about yourself. And especially for people who aren't really used to doing that, like writers are, you know, alone a lot. And so like when you're having to like talk all the time about your work, it's like, do people really care? Like, and then it starts making you feel really vulnerable. So yeah, it's really important to really dive into that stuff.
Yeah, I love that. And I think do you do anything related to subconscious work? I guess thinking about like your greater why. Do you think it's important to have a sense of maybe for music it'd be like kind of your ideal audience member, or for a book like your ideal reader? Do you think that is some important like inner work for us to focus on? I know for myself, when it's sort of like putting something out to the masses on social media, it doesn't feel nearly as impactful as if I hear from like one person that I can really put a face and a name to, who resonated with my work. Is that something that you think is important during the promotion process?
Yeah, I think it's important. Not as important as some people would maybe emphasize. What I think is most important is to understand um, what you provide in a more like holistic sense. So you're not really necessarily just like writing a book, but what is that book giving the person that's reading it, and like what are they experiencing and receiving from that book, and being able to really identify that, and then also identifying the journey that that person is going on to get to you. I can share an example. One of my clients is a wedding musician, and she was really frustrated with not getting the results on reels that she was expecting. So, like, she was doing a lot of really great work, like following trends, like doing the reels that she was supposed to be doing, and it just didn't turn into bookings for her. And what
Mhm.
she realized was that her audience wasn't coming from Instagram. They were coming from places like The Knot or Wedding Wire. And so she then invested her money in those places. And then the audience found her on Instagram after they already knew about her from those places. So it was able to kind of clarify her content for that potential audience member, because by the time they get to her Instagram, they already know who she is and what she does. So now it's kind of more like, let's dive into like who I am as a person and like how I approach these things and what I sound like and stuff. So it was a totally different mindset for her, and it was able to really improve her results. So I think to answer your question, what's most important is really understanding what you provide from a holistic standpoint, and then understanding the journey that your potential audience member is taking before they get to you. So that can really help you clarify your content and help you to clarify what you're saying, because like if you're trying to speak to them at the beginning of the journey, but they're already through part of it, then they're not going to resonate with what you're sharing. So yeah, so I think those things are really, really important.
I love that. And I think that question of what is my book giving to the reader is such a great one to pair with that question about your greater purpose, because I think, like you said, when we shift the focus from just on ourselves, it just helps with imposter syndrome and overwhelm so much. And so I love that idea. I do believe that your book is a gift to readers. And so really narrowing down on that. Well, maybe in our last few minutes, we can dig into dreams.
Yeah.
And you've written some wonderful posts about just the power of dreams. And I would love if you want to just talk a little bit about how we can use our dreams, to help us through our creative struggles or our problems, and just use that as, I feel like it's such an untapped source of power for so many of us.
Yeah. So, when you are really struggling with like writer's block or things like that, you can get a lot of clarity from your subconscious. And one of the easiest ways to do that without like hypnotherapy or without things that are like having a person guide you is through your dreams. So, what this is essentially called, and like I've seen it called subconscious tasking before. So subconscious tasking can be done like outside of your dreams, but I think your dreams are a really powerful way of harnessing it. So this is when you task your subconscious to get something done behind the scenes. Because like I said, like 90 to 95% of your brain's activity is happening without you really realizing it. So, what we know from dreams is that while you're resting, your mind is integrating everything it's been learning or the problems it's been dealt throughout the day. The problem is that it's hard to remember what your dreams are when you wake up. And a lot of times your subconscious mind has figured out like solutions, but you're not really aware that you know the solutions. So when it comes to you during the day, you're not going to be like, oh, that's the solution to the problem, because you're too busy like with your day. So you're not really thinking about like, oh, there's the thing I needed to know in order to like fix this weird problem in the plot or whatever. So it's okay that like you don't remember your dreams, but if you want to be able to like be more aware of when your subconscious mind is giving you solutions, then you need to start practicing remembering your dreams. So to do that, you keep a dream journal. And what you would do is like, even in the middle of the night, if you wake up, you need to write down what you remember from the dream. If it's bullet points, or if you just like literally write the story, sometimes it's like in the middle of the night and you can't fully flesh it out, but you can write bullet points and then it'll help you remember in the morning. And just get in the practice of taking notes of your dreams, talking about them, remembering them, because that's kind of step one. And then step two is before you fall asleep, your brain is in a theta wave process. So what it's doing is it's kind of like this half conscious, half unconscious time where, you ever like almost fallen asleep and then woken up and you were like, oh, like this happens to me in my son's bed all the time, every night. Like I'll kind of like drift away and I'm like, oh, he's asleep, I'm going to get up. And I get up and I'm like, whoa, like that's weird,
Yeah.
So that's the perfect time to task your subconscious mind. So what you would do is you would tell your subconscious, I want to learn about X problem in my dream tonight, or give me an answer to this in my dreams, or bring me clarity in my dreams. And you will receive, like I've always received an answer when I do this. The trick is it's hard to remember it. So that's why going back to practicing remembering your dreams by keeping a dream journal is really important. I love interpreting dreams for people. So one of the things I want to extend to your audience is like a clarity call. If anyone's interested in like an hour call with me, that would be an option for them. But what we would do is we would take the dream and interpret the symbolism. And, you know, it's really personal. Like I remember I was learning about dreams when I was in like 7th grade. This was something that I was always interested in. And one of the first things I realized was that like dream dictionaries are not really accurate because everybody has a different attachment to objects or things. And they really are kind of extensions of you in different ways. So it's a really personal thing to interpret a dream, but I think that there's ways that you can figure out your problems by tasking your subconscious with this. And whether it happens when you wake up or it happens later in the day, usually when you're in some sort of subconscious flow, like driving or doing something that you're not thinking about, or like showering, that's when you start to like get those moments of clarity. So it's just a matter of practicing being aware of that when it's happening, and being aware of your dreams as much as possible. But yeah, the more you dive into mindset and subconscious work, the more you're going to gain a lot more clarity that you technically already have. You just don't notice it happening. So yeah.
Yes, I love that. It's like really about, it seems like tapping into this wisdom that you already have inside of you that you're not even aware of. And so I just think that's such a great exercise. And thank you for laying out those 2 steps. You've inspired me. I have an old dream journal that I haven't been using for a while. So yeah, you've inspired me to break it out tonight and to start cataloging my dreams again. So exciting.
Yeah. There's so much more you can do too, but I know we're out of time, but yeah, there's just like an endless sea of potential that like, it's just so, it's already present and it's already there. It's just a matter of becoming aware of it.
Yeah. And we didn't even touch upon, sometimes writers struggle with like writer's block or getting ideas. Like, I don't really know what to write about. I don't know where to start. And I just think this also is so fruitful for those type of problems. But thank you for also offering that clarity call to our audience. I think that's a wonderful resource. And you also have another free challenge that's coming up. Do you want to just tell listeners a little bit about that? And then we'll go into where they can find you and connect with you.
Sure. So I have a free Promoting with Purpose challenge. It comes with a guidebook that helps you kind of go through. It's a 5-day email challenge, and you'll be able to learn I would say like it's a method, but it's very personalized, about promoting with purpose and avoiding social media burnout. So you learn about like where you stand with social media. We journal. There's prompts for that. And then I share tips on how to find joy in promotion, which is like, a lot of people are like, I just don't want to hate it, but let's go further and let's actually learn how to love it. Right. So we're going to do that. And then there's a guided tapping session, EFT, which is a mode of kind of like triggering physical response to anxiety. And it's centered around imposter syndrome. So that is something that's really useful. That's included in the challenge. And you get to start mapping out that audience journey and that social media plan that I was talking about, like learning where your audience is coming from and things like that. So it's super jam-packed full of information and value, and it's free 5 days via email. So you can take it whenever. So
that sounds fabulous. I will definitely include the link for that. And why don't you share your website and where you are on social media so that people can find you if they want more Megan?
Yeah, my website is megan-kuhar.com. Right now I'm pretty much only on Instagram. So I'm kind of like taking a break over the summer for social media because I just want to dig in the garden and do stuff like that. So you can find me on Instagram at Megan Kuhar. But if you signed up for this challenge, you'll hear from me more often because I'm on email more than I am on Instagram right now. So so that's a good way to do it. So you can find that on my website.
So wonderful. And like I said, I just love your newsletter. You have so many gems. And just thank you so much for taking the time to be part of the summit and for just offering your brilliance to our audience. I'm so grateful to know you and just to be inspired by you.
Thank you, Dallas. Thank you so much for having me and for hosting this.